Here are some quick tips that I thought might be worth sharing. And so I'd like to talk to you about how to think like an appraiser. So you're a realtor, or you're a seller, or maybe you're a buyer, but you want to think about, what's this appraisal going to look like? How should I prepare my home for the appraisal? If you can just get into an appraiser's mind, I didn't mean to do the crazy sign, but if you can get into an appraiser's mind a little bit, it might help you as you prepare the house. First of all, understand that appraisers are licensed and regulated to maintain impartiality. They can't try to give you more value as a seller. They can't try to work for the buyer and help them buy the house for a lower price. They are licensed and regulated to be impartial. And it's a big deal to them because they could lose their license if they're not impartial. If they don't do this correctly, they could lose their license, and that's a big deal. Appraisers are required to disclose all safety and soundness issues. So I like to tell buyers and sellers, make sure the property is safe, sound, and secure. If there's something falling off, probably need to fix it. If there's a place where somebody could fall off, you should fix it. For example, you got a deck, it's over a foot or so off the ground, and there's some railing missing. That is not secure. That's not safe. You walk into the living room and you feel the floor dip and it's going down. That might not be sound. You walk around the house and you see a place where the foundation is crooked and fallen. That might not be sound. So you want to make sure it's safe, sound, and secure. Appraisers don't consider price per square foot. That's number 3. So you say, well, this house is really, really big. Yeah, it's really, really big. It's a big, ugly eyesore, so it might not be as valuable. Or it could be small and very well equipped, very well maintained. It could have valuable amenities, and it have more value than a typical price per square foot house. So you can't just go by price per square foot. Sometimes a house has a pool, and that's not necessarily a value. The pool could be dated and it needs a pool liner, and the pool actually hurt the value of the property. Appraisers must analyze all pages. They're going to look at that contract. So when you're writing that contract, remember, one of your audience members is the appraiser. Appraisers must measure the property, and they can't rely on public records. Which is kind of interesting, because we just said they don't consider price per square foot, and now they're measuring the property. Well, they're measuring the property to properly report what the size of the property is. And so sometimes there's unfinished areas that have been omitted, or they've added a finished area, and the appraiser is going to give you the accurate measurement. In fact, I have an appraiser friend that is willing to measure properties for real estate agents if you're interested. So if you say, one of the things I hate to do is measure the property, I'm not sure if I'm measuring it right, you can hire my friend to do your measuring for you before you list a property. The cost of improvements made to a house does not equal the value of the house. In other words, you bought the house for $100,000 and you spent $20,000 on a mural on the back wall. That may not add $20,000 in value. In fact, I can tell you, most likely it will not. In fact, that mural is ugly as sin, and it's going to hurt the value of your house. So don't just assume because you bought something and you paid X number of dollars for it that it's going to raise the value. I love to go to a light sale and buy lights for a house. And sometimes I buy these lights at a fraction of what they cost, and they're very expensive lights. If you're a real estate agent and you don't know about the light sale in Hickory, you ought to call me. I'll tell you about that too. You need to get on that list because it's an incredible light sale, and they are incredible lights. These lights are valuable. So let's say it's a $1,500 light fixture that you can buy at the light sale for $150. Will it add $1,500 in value to the house? Probably not. But it'll add more value than you paid for it, probably, if you got it at the light sale. Anyway, just understand that the value of what the house, the value of the house does not directly correlate with the money you spent on the addition. Here's a good example of that. Somebody adds a walk-in bathtub. In other words, it's one of those bathtubs that has a door that swings open and closed, and so it's kind of tall, and you can walk in, shut the door, fill up the tub. And then if you forget to empty the tub before you open the door to get out, it's going to flood the flood the house, maybe flood the basement. Well, that bathtub, although maybe it costs you $15,000 to install, maybe it costs you $12,000 to install, it might not add any value. In fact, the borrowers, or the buyers, the buyers may look at that and see it as not attractive. They may see it as not a need for them, and they may immediately think that has to come out and has to be replaced. And so an appraiser is looking at, appraisers think in terms of the typical buyer. So now that tub might be the perfect selling feature for a few buyers, but because he's looking at the value for the typical buyer, he may not add any value for that walk-in tub. There are condition ratings on an appraisal. If you've never seen this, you ought to understand that appraisals have different values, have different conditions. They have to mark the condition of a property. There's conditions C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6. For example, if you get an appraisal back and it says as is, so it's a good appraisal, but it's marked C6. The improvements have substantial damage or deferred maintenance with deficiencies or defects. See, that C6 rating could make your appraisal something that the mortgage company looks at and says, no, we can't loan on this property. So look at the rating of your appraisals, and you can refer back to this video, or you can just Google appraisal ratings and you'll figure that out. But the rating of the appraisal, we're not rating the appraisal. The appraiser is rating the condition of the house. All appraiser adjustments must be supported by evidence. So if you want to, let's say you're a real estate agent and you want to help your appraiser and you want to help with the sale of this property and you want to make sure that everything goes according to plan, I would leave a package on the foyer table or the kitchen bar somewhere that's in plain sight for the appraiser, or hand it to the appraiser when he comes to appraise or she comes to appraise. Handle a package, and that would include maybe it includes some comps, maybe it includes some information about the property, maybe it includes everything that you can date, like the date of the roof, maybe a contract from where the roof was put on, maybe a date of the HVAC, maybe a time when the furnace was serviced. Any kind of details that you can give the appraiser will be helpful because they're looking for evidence. The appraiser has to support every adjustment he makes with evidence. Location, of course, you all know it. Location, location, location when it comes to real estate. This is a time that you might want to consider when your appraiser has been selected. Now the agent, the realtor, doesn't get to choose the appraiser. The mortgage lender doesn't get to choose the appraiser. The bank doesn't get to choose the appraiser. The buyer and seller don't get to choose the appraiser. It has to be a third-party company that chooses the appraiser and sends that appraiser out. If that appraiser, if you're as the realtor discover that the appraiser is coming 2.5 hours away, you might want to contact the appraisal management company and say, is this appraiser really qualified to appraise in my area? I see that he's coming from 2.5 hours. I see that she's coming from 2.5 hours away. Have they done an adequate number of appraisals in this area, in this community, so that they understand how valuable this community is? Or maybe it's a community that is less desirable, but you need to make sure that the appraiser is aware of and familiar enough with the area to understand the location to appraise adequately. Well, I hope that can be helpful to you in one way or another. That's my goal, is to be helpful. And so let's end it here. My name is Josh McDowell. My number is 828-238-2682. Anytime you need to call me, anything I can do to help you, don't hesitate to reach out. I realize that my NMLS number is not on this screen. My NMLS number is 205-8562. I'm licensed in North Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. If there's anything I can do to help you, reach out to me anytime.